This is Mitchell Elf. Our theme this year is Adaptations, and this unit is Beaks, Feet, and Feathers. And this is Center 5, also known as the conclusion, and it's all about owl pellets. In this center, students are going to discover what owls eat by examining the contents of owl pellets, and they're going to learn how owls eat and digest their food. This center is going to take a lot more time than the usually allotted 15 to 20 minutes. So as I said in the intro conclusion video, you're probably want to adjust how you run your day. One option is to have the 15-minute setup, 15-minute introduction, and then only run 3 of the 4 other centers at 20 minutes each, and then use the 35 minutes remaining for the conclusion. And that would be this center 5 as the conclusion. Another option would be to kind of shorten your setup and your introduction time and run the 4 centers somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes, and then still make sure you save 30 to 35 minutes for the conclusion, which is the center 5 again, so that the kids have plenty of time to learn about and dissect the owl pellets. Some of you may be wondering what an owl pellet is. An owl pellet is a product of the unique digestive system of birds. So owls and lots of other birds cannot chew their food as many animals do, so they have to swallow their prey whole and tear larger prey into small pieces. So an owl's food travels directly into their digestive system. And bird stomachs consist of 2 parts. The first part is the glandular stomach, and the second part is the gizzard. The glandular stomach is where there's enzymes and acids and mucus that start the process of digestion and breaking down the food. And the gizzard is where it kind of acts like a filter, and it filters off the unusable and insoluble parts such as bones and fur and teeth and feathers. So those stay there in the gizzard, and then the rest of the usable stuff moves on down to the digestive organs like the small and large intestine. So that part that's left in the gizzard, the bones and the fur and the teeth and the feathers, is regurgitated up in the form of an owl pellet. And that's where we get these little tinfoil wrapped pellets that people go out and collect so that programs like ours can study what owls eat and kind of act like mini paleontologists. So in the outline, it says, if it's possible, the parent volunteers need to read some background information on owls, which is included in the ELF box. There's this background information that says specifically Owl Adaptations background. There are also information in each of the group packets that talk a little bit about pellets. And then there's also information in some of these books, these pamphlets that came with owl pellets. I believe we have 3 of them that talk about owl pellets and what they are. I just read to you from one of the pages. So there's all kinds of information here, but I would have each member of your group try to read ahead of time a little bit about owl pellets and what they are so that they can explain that to the kids. There's lots of interesting information about the owl pellets and how they're formed in our bin. It's up to you how you want to run it, but our suggestion is that after the final rotation, that you keep the kids in those groups, and if you've only run the 3 centers, then break the kids in, if you can, break them into 4 groups. And have maybe an overall introduction to what they're about to do, but I would strongly recommend letting each parent volunteer go ahead and run it like it's their own little center at their table. That way you've got the kids' attention, and you can explain to them what they're about to do and what they're about to see. You can talk to them a little bit about the digestive system of the owl, and have their attention in a better way than as a whole class. There are packets of information, 4 packets info packets in the bin that have the exact same thing. They have an owl pellet bone chart. They have a bone ID sheet. They have a food chain sheet if you want to discuss that, and then they have the background pellets information. And they also have a color copy of an information sheet that tells you all about pellets, shows you pictures of what pellets look like, and then shows you pictures of what you might find inside an owl pellet. And those are all useful resources for you to explain things, but also for the kids as they open up the pellets to find out what kind of animal the owl ate when it regurgitated that pellet. There is also an owl pellet dissection sheet where the kids could fill out scientific data on their what they find in their owl pellet. They could draw pictures. They could check off what they find. I would strongly suggest that you save this for the very end and or send it home. But if you have a group of kids that's really into gathering data like this, you could have them do it as they go. I think this is probably more of a 3rd or 4th grade data gathering tool. The owl pellets are located not in the bin, but they're located in a box that says Owl Pellets for Elf with directions on them. Each of there's a bag, there's 5 bags. Each one is designated for each grade level, so this one is kindergarten. And then there's bags inside those bags that have the teacher's name on them. And they, for instance, this one is Mr. Smith's. And there should be 27 in there. And hopefully that's the right amount for your class. We've gotten the class list from the office. If by chance there are new students, there is a bag of extras in here. But if you could make sure to keep the grade level bags all organized that way, people aren't having to dig through and find things, have a harder time finding things. So when you set it up, you'll talk to the kids about what they're about to see, and the outline goes over some of that for you. Talk about how the owls swallow their prey whole, the outline suggests to you, and that about 12 hours later, an owl regurgitates their meal, and they spit up what's left of their meal, the part they can't use. And they spit it up, and it's called a pellet. So you could go over some of the sheets and some of the bones they think that might be in theirs, and then talk to them about what they might see. And before they open it, I would highly recommend having them make some predictions about what they think they're going to find. Each student will get a paper plate and a pellet, and they can put that pellet on their paper plate. Each student also, there's enough that each student could have one of these wooden skewers to kind of poke at their pellet. There'll be some latex gloves in here if kids really don't want to touch them, but again, they are sterilized. There's no icky stuff on them. And there are some tweezers, probably about enough for 2 for each group of kids if you divide your class into 4 groups. And so they can use those tools to dissect and pick apart their owl pellet. And once they've done that, hopefully they'll start separating it into piles of bones, piles of teeth, piles of fur. And as they start to get the piles of bones, especially the older kids, might be able to start identifying the bones using the charts that we provided. And then they can tape the bones that they found and label them if they wish onto a piece of construction paper. There are cut up squares of construction paper in the bin, and each student should get one and put their name on it, and then they can start taping their bones to it. And when they're done, they can put it in a Ziploc bag provided hopefully by your classroom teacher, and they can take that home and talk to their parents about what they did and what they learned and what they saw. So when everyone's finished at the table, you could decide to compare the contents of the different pellets within the students at the tables. There are some owl pellets we mixed up. There's a mixture of larger owl pellets that might have bigger animals in them bigger skulls with smaller ones, so it'd be good for the kids to share. Try to mix those up as you pass them out, so each group gets at least one big one, and then they can compare those. And just have a discussion about what the kids have learned and they can share. And at the end, it says, although these pellets have been sterilized, please have students wash their hands well after this activity. Remind them not to put their hands in their mouths while they're working. And then there's some Purell that we'll provide that you can use to sanitize hands as well. I think that's about it. If you have any questions, you can email us at mitchellelf@gmail.com. And if you run low on anything, please let us know immediately. And have a great time. And again, if you have any questions logistically, that would be fine to email us as well. Have fun.